happened so early, so young, that there was no defining moment. It just was something that I feel like I grew up feeling like, okay, I want to be a pilot. My older brother, who I was very close to, wanted to be a pilot as well. So I'm sure that had a great deal to do with it. I always like to say that, he grew up and moved on to doing something else, and I never grew up, which is perfect for being a pilot, right? One of the defining moments was he had always wanted to be an astronaut, so I think that was my bent too, and pilot is a lead-in towards that. And certainly I remember we were living overseas in India with no TVs when Apollo 11, landed on the moon. And I remember waking up, I think it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and listening to the radio to hear the moon landing, and to be able to visualize it and think about what it took, and all the people that came together to make that happen, and that to me was a very big moment that I certainly remember and will always remember. But another piece of that was when that Apollo 11 crew did their world tour. The crew of Air Force One, which is what the aircraft they flew on, came to our house for dinner. My dad was a diplomat, and they came over to visit for dinner. And meeting that Air Force crew, and I just thought, these are the greatest guys, and I just fell in love with them right away, and thought, that's, and I think that was my turn from the astronauts who we got to meet, but were very tired and obviously big celebrities, so not quite as interested in an individual, girl and boy, versus the Air Force One crew that spent, wonderful time with us and took time to talk. So I think that was a big shift in my thinking, from astronaut to pilot. And it's just something that was always there under the surface that I just knew I was going to do. And it wasn't until high school, I think my junior year, where a guidance counselor asked me, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to be an Air Force pilot. And he says, you can't do that. The Air Force doesn't let women fly. And I can honestly look you in the eyes and tell you that's the very first moment that it ever occurred to me that anybody would tell me I couldn't do something because I was a woman. So thankfully it had gotten to that point, and it was so deeply set in my psyche that my response to him was, well, they're going to have to change because this is my destiny. When I took command of the 89th, however, 30, 40 years after that, 40 years after that, in my speech, I told that story to let the command I was about to take know how significant what they do as ambassadors in blue, as we call it, on their trips around the world, what a significant impact they can have.